MC Magic Honey Pot assumes no responsibility for its content, and the Wade and Carter Show shares all responsibilities for their opinion.
Baseball's coming back. Naval statements. Stimulus deadline coming up, and the House has another stimulus package. All that and more coming up on the Wade and Carter Show. Couldn't read my own writing.
And then you covered it. Bump, bump.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning to you,
How
sir.
are you today?
I am very well,
Good.
thank
Let's
you.
do this.
COVID-free, baby.
Good.
Wade and Carter weather brought to you exclusively by me and Ash. Thank you for that fluctuation
Yeah, no
there.
problem.
Michael. It is 72 degrees in Victoria, heading to a high today of 87, cloudy, and like spotty chance of rain. 40% at 9 o'clock, 40% at 2 o'clock. Chance, though. There's a chance.
Good.
Like you dating Jennifer Aniston, there's a chance. She's still got a heartbeat,
There was never a chance when I was single.
right?
Ain't happening now. Let's see
You'd
who's
have a
on.
better chance if you approached her with Cheryl and like played on some secret fantasy that she's got. You'd have a better chance with Jennifer Aniston if you said, "Hey, Jen, it's my wife Cheryl," and just like maybe go get a drink, see if they hit it off. It's the best chance you've got.
That's the only chance.
That's
I have.
the only chance you've got.
And there's still no chance.
You come back, they're gone. Hey, we have so much in common. Neither of us wanted to be with Ash.
We're going shopping.
Unbelievable.
Scott Tomko checking in. Chris Conrad, good morning. Scott Snow, Lacey Merriman, Bobby Leister, good morning to you. C.W. Bean. Bobby Leister says, hope you all don't cut us short today with the program. Bobby, I don't know what Facebook
I
is
think
doing.
Facebook's
but
doing that to us. I really
think
do.
about it. Yesterday we started talking COVID stuff, and all of a sudden the program ends. So we'll get our COVID stuff. We'll get to some of that later. Patrick Strauss, good morning. We're at 48 YouTube subscribers. We're climbing slowly.
Very slowly. They have flattened the curve. We're at the peak of the curve. We need you folks to go like or subscribe to YouTube. It's free. Just do it.
It's not quite as interactive and engaging as the Facebook,
No.
but we're getting it there.
We want the count. We want the body count.
Larry Leahy checking in, says baseball, time to play some ball. We'll get to that in just a second. Good morning, David Rice, Marvin Mickish, Lisa Poole, Andy Ria Jr., Christina Wise, John Posey. Good morning to you, Judge, Monica Jost, Mike Bloschke, Chris Jansen, Don Nicole, Amy Mundy, Matt Boucher, Sheriff Lauterbach. Pretty good group in this morning.
Do you ever sneak out and let Cheryl sleep in the morning? Or do you always tell her about it? Or is she awake when you leave?
No, she gets up and then she goes back to bed.
I kind of felt guilty, but this morning I rolled over and Dawn was sleeping so soundly and was like down, and we got these bamboo sheets. I think I told you about it.
Yeah.
We got these bamboo sheets, people, that one time we were, I think, at a Bed Bath & Beyond, and we like splurged and bought these like 800 thread count Pima cotton, and they were fantastic. I've never had silk sheets, don't want them.
No,
But-
not silk sheet, cotton.
Yeah, you get that hangnail, and then I just don't want that. So Tila and I bought these sheets that were
Nails. You won't have that.
right. They were so comfortable, and we were at an outlet, and there was this guy was selling these bamboo sheets, and they said, "Oh, feel these," and they felt great. And I thought, well, I wonder how they're going to hold up. I had all this anxiety, but they were only $35 for the whole set. So I said, okay, we'll try it. These have been the most perfect sheets I've ever owned. They're softer than the cotton. They're light. They don't make you hot. They appear to be absorbent like cotton. They're nice. So this morning she was like all nestled, careful. She was all nestled down in there, nothing sticking out but some curls. And I said, you know what? I'm not a perfect guy. I'm just going to sneak right in here. So good morning, sweetheart. I'm sorry that I left. I usually lean over and kiss her on the cheek, and she'll go, brush your teeth.
Yeah, that's because she's trying to be nice and tell you to not bother waking her when you leave.
Sure.
Yeah.
So a quick diversion from our
James
agenda
Kurth,
today.
Iceman, good morning.
I want your input on this because I've got some concerns. There are lots of folks, and I have to tell you, for the last several seasons, actually ever since Jimbo Fisher was hired at Texas A&M, all eyes have pointed towards this upcoming football season. His third, Kellen Mond, you've got a quarterback.
All eyes of Texas, you mean?
Yeah, well, I think even the SEC was a little leery because on paper, see, LSU on paper could be down a little because they lost Burrow and like 14 guys got drafted.
Yeah, Lacey Merriman wants to link to those sheets.
Yeah, we'll work on that, Lacey. We'll get to you. You and T-Lap can chat that up. The Alabama team has shown itself to be human, and it was predicted. They knew that Tua and these guys were going to be gone. And the Aggies were like, 2020 is our year, 2020 is our year. And I could not disagree. I looked at their schedule, and I'm concerned that may be accurate.
Okay.
But here's the problem. Here's my concern if you're an Aggies fan. If the games push, so you don't start off 1-0 against mighty Abilene Christian because you don't play that game on September 5th. And then if you don't play the next week against the juggernaut of North Texas.
The Mean Green?
Joe Green could play for them now, and he's 68 years old.
And he'd probably be their best defensive
Right.
lineman.
Then you get Colorado, who hasn't been relevant since they left the Big 12.
Since
Right?
what was the name of the running? Since what they
Yeah,
who was
what
it?
was that
Cordell
guy's
Stewart, right?
Yeah. Then you get Arkansas, who's the only thing they got is that they're the name of a state. It's a terrible program. Then you get Mississippi State.
But they're on the upswing.
So then if you come back on October the 2nd,
Well, you got Mississippi State, and guess who's there now?
they're
The
legit.
former Pirate of the Palouse, right?
And I guarantee you he wants a piece of Texas A&M. And he's a great coach. So now you come back, and instead of being 4-0 going for 5, building some momentum, maybe you're 0-1 because Mississippi State's going to come out and throw some wrinkles at you while you're trying to learn to play defense.
Well, and here's the interesting thing. Mike Leach is in the SEC. He's going to have to play a little defense.
Well,
Although
he's
defensive
gonna do
college
well.
football's gone anyway. I mean,
He's
even
gonna do
SEC
well.
games are 38, 35, 52, 44.
So say that you play that game and you get by Mississippi State. Then you get a break because the next week you get to play mighty Fresno State.
Okay.
But then that next week, you got Auburn. Then you got the Gamecocks of South Carolina. I mean, in theory, you could be 7-0 at this point. In reality, if they start with Mississippi State, they're going to lose. Then they'll beat Fresno. Then they're going to lose to Auburn. Then they'll beat South Carolina. Then they'll beat Mississippi. Then they'll beat Vanderbilt. Do you see the teams that the Aggies are playing in the SEC? The only legitimate team I've named is Auburn.
They don't schedule their SEC. They don't make their SEC schedule.
Which is why they should get rid of, if they want to be a legitimate program, they should get rid of Abilene Christian and put in Notre Dame. They should get rid of North Texas and put in Michigan. I mean, Texas has been playing,
Yeah, but you know what? You're going to be in the mix, being undefeated 7 games in.
So you're saying there's strategery.
Probably.
Okay, so Abilene Christian, North Texas, Colorado.
I mean, that's a real weak But you've got a Power 5. You got a Pac-12 school there in Colorado.
Ugh, the weakest of the weak.
Arkansas,
No,
I'd say Oregon State would be the weakest of the weak.
They were probably busy that week. Mississippi State, Fresno, Auburn, South Carolina. Then they play Ole Miss, Vanderbilt. Then they have to finish with Alabama and LSU, which I've got the Aggies pegged if they play the whole season at 9-3. They all seem to think, and I agree, LSU's going to be down, Alabama's going to be down, but guess what? You're playing them in week 11 and 12. They're going to be LSU and Alabama by then. You think Nick Saban's going to sit around and go, well, we'll just mail this season in? He ain't going to want to lose to Texas A&M.
No, Nick's not going to be wanting to be – he wants to be back. I mean, he wants to be back in that talk, in that mix.
Yeah.
So
arguably the best –
and they didn't get there with Tua last year, so he didn't help them get there.
Best schedule they'll ever have to run the table. I made the comment the other day that
Imagine if they lose one of those first 2 games.
Well,
if they're playing.
if they play Mississippi State for their first game, if they push those, I
meant the Abilene Christian or North
They
Texas.
shouldn't lose those just based on talent alone, just Sandlot. They ought to win. But if their first game is against a Pirate, they lose. If their first game is against Mississippi State, the Aggies go down. Book it. They better hope they play all those first games to get loose.
James Kurth checking in, says his daughter's considering A&M because her dad's nickname's Jimbo. It's all she needed.
There you go. Well, he's a fine coach. They've got a beautiful stadium over there. I mean, it is top state of the art. Beautiful, beautiful.
Jennifer Yancey, good morning. Josh Hanchett, good morning. Robin Novak, Stephen Kidder joining us. Philip Barone, Pablo Perez, good morning, everybody. So baseball could be back. Let's really engage our faithful listeners. And I'm here on July 4th.
How patriotic, how American.
80-ish game schedule. And that a lot of talk that the DH will be used in both leagues this year.
Why?
Well, think about it. If you get a pitcher that takes one off the hand, he's gone for the year now instead of half a season or 3 months. I think it's a way to protect it, and it's probably a way to slide it in.
You think that baseball covets the DH in both leagues? Period?
I think they want to get that.
Is it better baseball? Because in my question, I've always felt, now don't get me wrong, I love the National League. I love the American League. I get the differences and the nuances. I've always felt like a National League manager had to manage more because you're coming up, it's pick a date. It's the bottom of the 7th. And the third hitter is Roger Clemens. Does he have enough in the tank to pitch the 8th? And oh, by the way, you're down by a run. Do you pinch hit for him now and then have to make a pitching change? Because, I mean, there's more strategy in the National League because if Clemens is the guy that, let's say it's only the 5th inning, and Clemens is the guy you want back on the bump in the 6th, you got to let him bat, even if runners are in scoring position and you got an out.
Well, here's the interesting thing with that. Now that pitchers have to face 3 batters when they go in, I think some of that
dumb rule.
I think some of that strategery is gone because you might have looked at the lineup and gone, well, geez, I need my lefty against their left-hander.
I think that's a terrible
and he's not coming up for, I don't know. It makes it interesting. But
the only reason they did that was to speed up the game, and I believe there's other ways to speed up the game. I don't think that it's fair to a manager to say, I want to bring in so-and-so to pitch to this lefty, and then I'm going to bring in – now, you might be able to say he's got to be warming the bully. He gets 3 pitches on the mound, and it's time to play. But I don't agree that you take that out of my hands and go, so I bring in –
here's why they don't give you the 3 pitches out of the bully, because they got to get all those commercials in to make the revenue.
Well, that's true too. But here's the thing that gets me.
But yeah, they could have sped that out.
You come out of the bullpen, and so what if you bring in the lefty to face, their right-handed power hitter to face Pujols, and then the next hitter is Berkman. Oh, he's going to switch it. And then the next pitcher is Mantle, and he's going to switch it. And you make them face those 3 guys. I don't like that. I guarantee you managers hate that. And probably most of our audience doesn't care. But
yeah, and you know what? With today's technology, I've always felt that was something that was just dumb. You get a pitcher that comes into a game who's supposedly been warming up in the bullpen, and he's not ready to go and needs a billion warm-up pitches on the mound.
You're out there doing
that just never made any sense to me.
I agree.
But with today's technology, you could still not interrupt the commercials because you can throw that commercial up there and shrink one of the screens, and they do it all the time, and let them warm up while that 30-second commercial's playing, and boom, then you go.
I agree.
Why
don't we run baseball? Co-commissioners.
But so that was the one thing that I've heard they're going to change is the DH will be in both. I believe the owners have agreed to it. The players have not voted on it, but there's the players are going to agree to this.
The players want to play baseball.
Well, no, the players want a paycheck.
Good point.
That's probably
Philip Brown brings in police officer Memorial Week ceremony today at 8 a.m. at De Leon Plaza. Folks, if you're out and about and you have an extra minute before you have to go to work, what a great show to show up there. Police Officer Memorial Week ceremony. It'll be nice. It's usually right there at the gazebo. You can go by and there'll be parking on the square. It's no problem. You should stop by for a minute and show your support for the men in blue.
Yeah. Look at Andrew Canning. Best time being at the game in Alabama when A&M won.
Yeah,
When
that was that one time.
Yeah.
That's when Johnny Football was there and they won that one time.
Yeah. I mean,
Had the best player.
you're going back 10 years.
Got to, though. You can't beat Alabama. Not on a regular basis.
Tom Price checking in. Yeah. And trust me, I've been there. I've been fans of plenty of those teams where I remember when, because that was the only win that meant anything.
It is stunning, and I mean, I'm not trying to rile up my Aggie friends, but it is stunning. If you go back and look at their conference record, it's just so many years of 50%, 500 or below football. It's just unbelievable. You would think, I mean, to listen to them and their expectations, you would think that they were contending.
Yeah.
More like Marlon Brando.
Well, but
It could have been a contender.
But you know what? I think that comes along with being a perennial underachiever, losing program. Not even losing, but not
elite,
but a program whose fans have long time suffered. I think that's sort of the way you end up getting. You think you're better than you are. You have higher hopes than you might otherwise. I mean, the Cubs went through it for centuries.
100 years, yes.
The Bo Sox went through it for almost a century.
There's a running back, supposed to be a 5-star running back. I don't know the kid. His name is Zach Evans. And the Yankees already had the posters printed up. They got the number one. The kid's name is Haney. It's a quarterback. They got a wide receiver that was rated number one in the state. And then they had this kid that Zach Evans they thought was just a lock to commit to A&M. And yesterday he committed to TCU. And it's interesting how quick they turned to, well, he's not SEC ready, and that's okay. Our stable's full at running back. And then somebody made the mistake of putting on Twitter, well, at least we don't have to listen to Texas brag about getting him. And then it was on. It's like, why we got to be involved in your recruiting failures? We've got recruiting failures of our own. You'll notice I'm an equal opportunity pessimist. I don't talk highly about UT football either. I've been very, very honest about the fact that Tom Herman has not gotten the job done in Austin, Texas as of today.
So is this kid the next Dalian Tomlinson to come out of TCU?
He's supposed to be a stud. But apparently he's got some baggage. I mean, you know what most 18-year-old kids do these days? A little baggage. I don't know what his problem is, if he has a real problem. I don't know.
His baggage is probably his parents.
Just being 18, yeah. Mama wanted a new house.
Dad's over demanding.
Like Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
Did you see this deal? I did not see a lot of it, but the idea that this Zion Williamson, this big-time guy that played at Duke, folks, big player, NBA player now, and apparently is just a freak baby. He's just a freak. It's like Shaquille O'Neal with handles and can jump. And
can hit free throws.
Yes, and while he was in college, he had signed some kind of contract with somebody and ended up suing them to get out of the contract because they didn't fulfill their end, and inadvertently then admits that he had entered into a contract while he was at Duke that you can't do, like to use his likeness or use his name. At any rate, this is the first time that the platinum ceiling has been pierced. We've heard Kansas mentioned. We've heard
North Carolina
mentioned, but now all of a sudden Duke,
Kentucky, Louisville
have all been mentioned in scandalous, paying of players and cheating. What I call it the Reggie Bush move, where you find out later that Reggie got a car and his mom got a house. And this Zion kid has now implicated Duke, which is, it's like somebody actually went inside the Vatican and blamed the Pope. It's that kind of deal with Mike Krzyzewski. Going to be interesting to see what happens with that.
Well, 2 years later, nothing, because I think that's basically the purpose behind the national name, image, likeness rulings or bylaws that the NCAA is working on and passing.
Yep.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. There's my beautiful wife Cheryl checking in.
Hi, Cheryl.
Lynch, good morning.
Andrea points out, makes a good point. And I do remember those days, Andrea. You're dating yourself. Jackie Sherrill said he'd rather have a 2 to 3 star player who would work his fanny off every day than have a 3 to 4 star, 4 to 5 star who felt that he deserved the position. The one thing when I throw something at UT, and I like to be harsh on my alma mater just to be an equal opportunity offender. When I throw hard at Texas is that every year by somebody's rating, we have a top 5 recruiting class. Every year, Texas comes in at number 3 in the rivals rating. And every year, OU beats us in stereotype. And that's because OU does a better job of taking high school stars and turning them into football players. OU does a better job consistently of coaching up their players than UT does. UT brings them into a country club atmosphere. Every kid's got a TV and a whirlpool bath for their feet at their locker, on and on and on. It's a beautiful, beautiful tens of millions dollar facility for the student athlete, but it doesn't make them a better football player. Jackie Sherrill did that. Of course, Jackie Sherrill cheated.
No, but Jackie Sherrill also kind of ended up a little bit like Tom Landry and had lost touch with today's game.
Well,
Jackie, you can have success like that, taking a 2 to 3 star recruit. Mike Leach did it at Washington State. We've seen snippets of that success at other schools. Turner Gill did it in Buffalo a few years back. You're not going to the top 1 or 2 programs or perceived 1 or 2 programs of the Power 5 conferences and competing for the conference title anymore. Or even a sniff of a national title with 2 or 3 star recruits and coaching them up. It just doesn't happen.
No, that's
anymore.
Exactly right. Paula Ermy there is one of my dear friends down the valley, OU faithful, and she knows that I'm being sincere that, hey, OU does a better job.
But they're not taking 2 and 3s and making them, turning them into 4 and 5s. They're taking
3s,
4s at the least a 3,
yeah,
and getting them there. But there's not many 3s on that Sooner roster.
Bob Stoops was incredible at taking like a 3-star linebacker. He's really fast, but he's undersized, and the next thing you know, he's like, built like of course, I'm sure he had a little something in his Wheaties, but that's not the point.
Bobcat Watley checking in. You know what's interesting? It makes you wonder because, he stepped away from Oklahoma. He took that deal to go into the XFL, which makes me think that deal was probably on the table before he left Oklahoma.
Maybe, yeah.
And now there's no XFL. I mean, they pulled the plug on it. Stoops will be.
I wonder if he'll end up somewhere. Money. He's got a beautiful home right there in Oklahoma City, Norman. He's got a beautiful home. The guy can't buy a meal. If he goes anywhere in Oklahoma, they're like, that's Bob Stoops. Let's buy his lunch. I mean, he's got a pretty good gig, and he's got to be, early 60s?
Yeah, probably somewhere.
He might take a couple of years off and come back to the NFL. Just give it a shot just to see what he's got.
Does he hang in the I don't know. Does he
end up? You want to know how
does he replace Nick Saban?
Boy, that'd be scary. I'll tell you this with no reservation. We had a coach at Texas years ago, pretty good guy, pretty good coach, a guy named Darrell Royal, played football at Oklahoma. I can tell you that if Tom Herman doesn't get his act together, I wouldn't have any problem at all with the University of Texas hiring Bob Stoops. You want to talk about shutting down OU football. Let Texas just go, well, if you can't beat the devil, bring him in. That's going to ruin Paul.
It doesn't happen often in college football.
No, it doesn't. But, I couldn't be more happy for Mack Brown going back to North Carolina. He's had a heck of a recruiting year. Now, here's another example. You talked about you can't take 2 and 3 star players and turn them into 5s in college. You also can't win a championship at North Carolina. It's not going to happen. You can't go to North Carolina. You can get to 9-2. You can get there. You can.
There's a good example of what I was talking about. Yes. There's a guy that can take 2 and 3s, and he can recruit the odd better player to
Yeah.
be in key positions, but he's not filling a roster in
Not in North Carolina.
of 4 and 5 stars.
Not to mention, you got to have about a 1,500 to get into that
Yeah.
university. I mean, just to go to school there, it ain't easy.
No.
There's Jim Hartman checking in. That's a
Morning,
great
Jim.
time. Great time for us to remind you today is the day for you to reach out to the VCS companies, Rocket Oilfield Services, or the only locally owned and authorized AT&T retailer. They're ready to work for you. You need surround sound, surveillance, fire detection, fire suppression. You need a pad site built, fence, gate. You need a new iPhone 11 so you can freak out your friends with all the dots on the back. Or if you need iPhone accessories, I'll tell you something I've learned the hard way. You can pull into a convenience store and buy one of those charging cords. They're $20 because they know if you buy a charging cord in the convenience store, you need it.
Yep.
Or you can go to the AT&T retailer and buy it for about $20. And guess what? It lasts longer.
Yep.
So buy it when you don't have to have it. And they'll bring it right to your car at AT&T, right there on Kerr Boulevard, just inside the loop, right off Main Street.
There you go.
You cannot go wrong. Allen's Wrecker Service, 578-6300. Allen and his crew, they'll come out and tow you. It's pretty simple. Our sponsors do what they do. They're all locally owned. They're all family businesses. They're all here for you. They're all making concessions due to the pandemic.
I'm going to give you the Victoria traffic report coming in. There was a cow on the side of the road eating grass near on 87 as you come down just before you hit the bend and get to Spring Creek, what's Northside Pet and Ranch. There's a cow on the side of the road there eating the grass. So be careful. You don't want to have to call Allen's.
Allen will go out there and throw a lasso around that heifer and drag her right up onto a flatbed. He ain't got no problem. He'll winch her down. Can you see it? 578-6300. Ladies, put that number in your phone. Do it now. AAAAA Allen's. And then when you need it and you're a little bit frazzled, you just open up your contacts and it'll say 578-6300. And you tell them Wade and Carter.
Put in your favorites.
Yep.
Be right at the top.
Chesnick Furniture Company, 100 years. Bobby Leon and his family, going back to his granddad. Think about that, folks. 70 years at their location in downtown Victoria. Been there since 1950. Furniture's half off in celebration of their 100 years in Victoria. Go by and see Bobby Leon. Please tell him Wade and Carter sent you. You came by to look at bedding. They've got Tempur-Pedic bedding. They've got lamps and furniture. Accoutrement. They've got appliances. They've got it all. It is a full service. You can outfit your home. They say you just do better at Chesnick. We've observed that Chesnick and Love make your house a home. And there you have it.
Nice.
Thank you.
Heather Monroe checking in from Toronto. Tirana. James Kurth checking in on his family on our show. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Good job. We pointed out that it's practically Wednesday in Newfoundland. That's I don't know where that started. I was stunned, totally ignorant. As we started this show years ago, Ash tells me one morning, people like that. I said I was ignorant. The thumbs come up. Ash told me this morning, or that morning, that, well, Newfoundland, is an hour and a half ahead of us. I was like, get out of here. I mean, it's either 9, 10, 11. No. If it's 8 here, it's 9:30 in Newfoundland. Yep. I go, why? Why would you do that? I mean, how does that even happen?
That was how educational Hockey Night in Canada was as a kid. Because it'd be like Pat Summerall coming up next on CBS, 60 Minutes, except on the West Coast.
Yeah, well,
that's your local news, right? Well, it was the same thing. Sunday night, we're Wonderful World of Disney.
7 o'clock.
9 o'clock, 8 o'clock Eastern, 8:30 in Newfoundland. That's how I knew that the time zone was a little wacky.
You know what that tells me more than anything? I'm going to let you tell me what the primary product is of Newfoundland, because they don't do much. They don't do much in Newfoundland because they ain't on the right time clock. Like if you're trying to call London and it's 6.5 hours later, it ain't working, man.
Well, it's called The Rock, but it doesn't have the same reason as
The Rock.
As The Rock.
Losers brag about doing their best.
But
winners go home.
Yeah, it's not Alcatraz. Fishing and offshore oil.
There you go. See, fishing doesn't matter. You leave it dark, you come back at dark, and offshore oil is 24/7. So that's why they're
you don't need to know the time in Newfoundland. I mean, when when your fish hole is full, it's time to go home.
All right. When you find oil, then
Yep.
it's time to cash the check.
Yep. So
That makes perfect sense. It's like Vermont. I mean, it's funny to hear Bernie Sanders used to say, well, we have tourism, skiing,
maple syrup.
maple syrup. That's all they got. So do you really think
And maple
that
syrup
Vermont matters?
Maple syrup is not a tourism industry.
No.
Although
nobody.
people go there to go stay a little bit and breakfast and grab an overpriced bottle of maple syrup just so they can drive it back home to Texas.
Bernie sure went away.
But you certainly can't. I mean, if you were actually to go watch the maple syrup industry as a tourism
Pretty
activity,
boring.
tap that tree,
Cut the tree,
Turn
put
the
a can there.
turn the spigot,
Yeah, it's crazy.
and wait. And wait. And wait. Oh, wait, we got a drop. Let's go put it in the snow and we'll make some maple syrup taffy.
Nice.
There's your maple syrup vignette for
You
the
know what's
day
funny is
on
if you-
CBC.
if you go to the store, maple syrup, I mean, like real maple syrup, they're proud of them trees, brother. I mean, at my house, we got 6 people sitting there. It costs $9 a throw. It's expensive to buy
Yeah.
maple syrup.
Almost as expensive as beef these days.
Has it gotten crazy again? I buy.
I saw a tenderloin for like $100. Tenderloin roast for $100.
That's crazy.
Even your prepackaged, pre-seasoned like fajita meat at the HEB, the beef, the skirt steaks,
Right.
like 20 some odd bucks for the little pack now.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you see where
Congress needs to investigate that bull crap.
somebody pointed out that HEB's facing some legal action over alleged price gouging involving the price of eggs? And I'm like, boy, you got to really buy a lot of eggs to get upset if they're $1.20 a dozen
Yeah.
instead of $1.40 a dozen. I mean, big deal.
Yeah, well, they were down. Well, interesting you bring eggs up. I was reading a story yesterday, actually. Guy up in, I think in New Hampshire. He's a big egg producer. I mean, to the tune that, and he produces for industrial type settings or large commercial kitchens. So his eggs become the liquid eggs that end up in the carton that they just
Right.
open and pour.
And that
as
is a
scrambled eggs.
great way to do eggs.
No,
I bought them by the carton before. It's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
No, it is. But anyway, this guy had like 80,000 eggs that he was going to have to, and he was sitting there fretting. He thought he was going to have to destroy his hens because all his commercial contracts are gone and his producers aren't producing it, or the guys that he was selling to manufacture all the liquid eggs, it wasn't happening anymore. Well, some lady up that way caught wind of this, and she apparently has this huge social networking site. She's like a backyard chicken lady.
Right.
It was in Pennsylvania, not New Hampshire. She got on social media and put this out there. They sold 80,000 eggs in an afternoon for this guy.
Wow.
They were driving 4 and 5 miles away, and what ended up happening is you had people from food banks all around Pennsylvania coming in, buying, dozens. They were doing the 5 dozen flats of eggs and,
Sure.
and buying boxes of these things, and at $2 a dozen. And you had to commit to at least one flat if you were going to buy it.
So you
So
got
you had to spend $10. But they had people from food banks coming in. They had people from nursing homes coming in. They had other types of industries
That's
coming in
awesome.
and buying them by the truckload. And this guy's able to save his business. He cut a deal with his lady to help him get the chickens eggs gone, but
No, that couldn't happen.
saved his chickens,
No, that couldn't happen.
saved his eggs.
Didn't happen. And I'll tell you why it didn't happen.
Why?
Because that man didn't build that business. And there ain't no way that his friends and neighbors saved it. If the government wasn't involved, I just don't believe you. Somebody had to subsidize those people to go do that, or it didn't happen that way. Did it really? It really happened where normal people pulled together and saved a man's business without the government?
Really did.
How can that happen?
I don't know in this day and age.
In other news, cardiologists are flocking to the Pennsylvania area due to the cholesterol increase.
Exactly.
80,000
Nice pun,
eggs,
by the way.
right? Yeah, flocking. Yeah, I try so hard.
I know you do.
And sometimes I feel like you're the only one that gets it, and it's still worth doing. It's a conversation that these folks get to eavesdrop on, and sometimes we just make ourselves chuckle.
Yeah. James Kerr says people pay $3, $4, $5 a dozen for farm raised eggs all the time. and
Yeah.
don't complain.
Don't tell Ash that. He gives me his farm raised eggs for free. You know, he had those chickens out at his place that weren't laying eggs, and I told him, I said, "Here's what you do: you just pick out the weak sister in that deal, take her out there and just lop her head off with a machete right in front of them other chickens, and I bet you the ones that are left start laying like champions."
That's 7 eggs yesterday.
There you go.
There's Doug Ellisor checking in.
Hello, cop. That's a good man right there.
Iceman says briskets over $100 each.
Yeah. Don't tell Jonathan Arterberry.
Switch to pork, the other white meat.
By the way, I heard that, and Jonathan will sell you some pork, and I heard that Uncle Mutt's had been limited on their ability to buy briskets.
Really?
Yeah, only so many a day or whatever the deal was. But let me tell you this, folks. If you get by Uncle Mutt's Barbecue today, you can pick up brisket, ribs, sausage, turkey, chicken. They've got it all at Uncle Mutt's. We did the other day. We bought the Uncle Mutt's rice. I sat there. I couldn't just enjoy it. I was trying to dissect it with my mouth and figure. I think it's got some sage.
It's not
in it.
wine.
No, it's.
You don't have to find all the notes of blackberry and cherry and everything in
I
there.
put a spoonful in my mouth and do like this to try to taste it, and then I swished it around in my mouth.
It's not a vichyssoise. You're not trying to get all the figure out what fish are in there.
Gosh, I love it when you talk French. At any rate, Uncle Mutt's Barbecue for you and
It's
your
got a little
family.
weird in here.
You'll be proud. I'm all a tingle. Yeah, we pull off a lot of bits. The idea of either of us being attracted to the other would be very difficult to pull off, wouldn't it? Very difficult.
I now know how all those women feel they get sniffed by Joe Biden.
Right? Hey, Joe Biden. Wow. I'm glad you just decided to only let your hair grow and you didn't go on like a bathing stripe
No.
or something.
No.
Ash is not cutting his hair until hockey comes back.
Until the NHL's back.
We've had our sponsors ask that he wear a cap in studio as he's starting to look a little like a homeless guy.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. Doing good.
We'll see how long it goes.
Right? Exactly.
Praying it comes back soon.
Hey, and real quick while we're here, SCT Building Systems, our buddy Clayton Helton, his lovely bride Casey. She's the design side. He's the quality and construction side. Reach out to SCT Building
She's the
Systems.
brains, he's the brawn.
And you know what? They yin and yang really good together. I've watched some of their work, and they're just efficient. And for years, he's done work for other builders and started doing his own thing because he was doing it all anyway. 564-8864. Reach out to Clayton. That's his cell number. Tell him I want a metal building. I want this. I want a wing on it. I want a lean-to on it. He can do it, and he'll do it for you at the right price. You're cutting out the middleman. You're going straight to the guy. Please tell him that Wade and Carter sent you when you call him. There's JP Hall checking in. JP, I'm glad you missed my Aggie football schedule update.
Speaking of which, Razor IT Solutions.
No,
He's got the wherewithal to go back and edit out.
No, he doesn't have the capability to go back and listen to that. What he can do, though, is he can study your analytics. He can help you encrypt your data. He can keep you from getting hacked. It's unbelievable. He can scare you. He scared me to death, and I don't have any data that I'm worried about being compromised. But JP can sit down with you, and in 10 minutes, he can show you actual live screens of websites, and it literally says China, Russia, India, China, Ukraine, China, Russia, of people that are bombarding websites,
Trying to
get in and hack them. Let's see what we have on the phone, and call Razor IT Solutions with all your computer needs. Good morning, caller. You're on Wade and Carter. Talk to us. That's JP Hall. You can interrupt that spot.
You can become the spot.
Tell us, JP, give me one thing before you do this. Give me one thing. We talk about you every day, and I've admitted to you, and I'm being sincere, I've admitted to you that sometimes I feel like I promote you from a position of ignorance, and you've always agreed that I seem to come off as promoting you from a position of ignorance. But give me an idea, tell me something in the last couple of months.
You've never said it. You've intimated it many times.
Your body language.
Oh, you've said it.
Right. So tell us.
Fair enough.
That's fair. Let's stop there. Let's tell us something that Razor IT Solutions has done.
What he left unsaid is you haven't even gotten to the to the level of being ignorant with
Right.
Razor IT.
Just
You're not there yet.
uninformed and stupid. Tell me something that Razor's done of late that you go, oh, well, you know, this is kind of cool. This is something we did for one of our clients. So if I had a business where I wanted to be able to invoice people online, or if I wanted to be able to accept payment, like literally a red pay button, you can help me with the software to do all that and have it coordinate straight into my QuickBooks, and I'm good to go. That's awesome. So yes, sir. Right. Where he played one of the gay cowboys. James Kurth it was a cameo role. James Kurth was actually a one-night stand for one of the stars before he hooked up with his eventual Brokeback Mountain partner. That's
Yep.
Did he really? I did not know that. Now, have you seen both films? And would you recommend either?
I couldn't remember Will's name yesterday when that movie came up, and so that was the reason I blanked on it. So thank you for.
Well, when you look, you've been on the show and talked about owning Reggie Bush's limo. You've talked about flying repeatedly, often, and just having casual camaraderie with Michael Irvin. I mean, you've got some really interesting and obscure is a good word, life experiences for a young guy. You have a lot of interesting things.
Did Michael think you had a hookup to help him out with something?
Right. Michael thought. I'm surprised he didn't turn to you and go, here, take a sniff of this. This will make you better.
so clear the sinuses.
You know, interesting deal, and I want to keep you. Have you been following even casually this Last Dance Jordan documentary at all? Well, Ash and I, we didn't really have a debate, but I made a point that I'll share with you, and then he shared a counterpoint that made me stop and think. And I'll preface it by telling you that
Spoiler alert.
I sat at a well, it wasn't UHV. It was who has Blue Bonnet Ranch golf tournament. Sat in the lobby of one of the hotels one afternoon for 3 hours, just shooting the bull with Butch Johnson, old receiver for the Cowboys that played in the Roger Staubach era. And I said, Pro, tell me something about Roger Staubach that I didn't know. I said, I've seen all the movies. I've seen all the interviews. Tell me something about Roger I don't know. He said, Roger was the boss. He said, that deal where he goes, you remember when he got into a little fracas with Clint Longley and punched him in the face in the locker room? I said, yeah, I haven't made the news. He said, there were lots of times that didn't make the news. He said Roger was all business, and he would dress you down in a heartbeat about the way you played the game. And that also carried over. Roger spent a lot of time mentoring Troy Aikman, who was an absolute tyrant in the locker room. Look at the personalities. You had Emmitt Smith as the all-time leading rusher. You had Michael Irvin as a cocaine-crazed madman. But when it was time to play football, they were all on the same page. And Aikman gets all the credit for that from those that were around. But in episode 7, they went to a bunch of people that played with Michael, like B.J. Armstrong being one of them, and said, how do you feel? Was Michael Jordan a good guy? Was he a nice guy to hang out with or be around? And B.J. said, no, not so much. And I'm paraphrasing. I don't want to try to quote anybody, but he basically said Michael was so intense that he just couldn't be one of. And that's our Michael Jordan wrap-up. Thank you. I'm done with that. Go ahead, JP. They were. In fact, the 1992 NLCS, Drabick pitched in Game 7 against Gant's Atlanta Braves, and the Braves won that one. Yeah.
Go on with your Michael Jordan, though. Go on with Michael Jordan.
No, but I was gonna tell you that Jordan, and I made a reference. It's not fair. It's trust me, it's really stretching the reference, but that's what we do here. I said, I can't imagine how frustrated Jesus Christ had to be with the disciples when they saw so much. They saw him heal the blind and heal the sick, and they saw everything, but yet they still had doubts. They still had fear. Michael Jordan literally said, leadership has a price. Winning has a price. He said, I dragged guys along when they thought they couldn't go, and I pushed guys to levels that they didn't know they had because I wanted them to experience winning, and I couldn't win by myself. And I thought, that dude is a hammer. I mean, that guy, of course, I've always been a huge Michael Jordan fan, but he's just telling you straight up. And then it hit him that the people that he played with, that he put 6 rings on their fingers, that they didn't all grasp what his pursuit of greatness was all about. And I got to take a break.
Yeah,
he goes, I don't have to do this. I got to take a break.
But wasn't the question, was Michael a good guy or a nice guy?
And the basic answer was
no,
not so much.
But Roger Staubach, as fire as he was on the field, has a reputation of being a good guy and was very generous and benevolent and a good person.
Legit.
Wayne Gretzky won 4 Stanley Cups, the greatest player to ever play the NHL, and to a man as fiery a competitor on the ice for a 180-pound guy that looked like, that had a dad bod before dad bods were ever in style.
Right.
When he was 18, he had a dad bod. But nobody will ever tell you there's not a nicer guy to ever have played hockey except for maybe Bobby Orr, who was also one of the greatest competitors. That's the difference. You can be a fiery, spirited, damn good player in your game, but you can also be a nice guy off it, and that's where I think Jordan doesn't have that.
He doesn't have the desire to do that. And JP, in the same breath, Jordan said people got on to him about, you're one of the most recognized people on the planet. You need to take more social stances. And he said, I love Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali is awesome. I'm a basketball player. He basically gets it. How often have we said on this show, hey, we don't care what you think about this, and named an athlete. I don't care what Ezekiel Elliott thinks about Donald Trump at all. And Jordan had the wherewithal. But, they showed some old Bulls footage from practice. You can see him. He's wearing like the red shorts and the little tank top with the white T-shirt. And they're running horses, JP, and Jordan wins every time. And Jordan beats everybody on his team every time. They just keep showing him crossing the finish line, and it's just Jordan.
Can't be a winner with 6 rings with and not be the best at practice too.
Absolutely. By the way, you know,
Yep.
so you just licked his shoes. You just licked his shoes instead. He said, get out of the way. But he said it with a nice tone.
He smiled while he told me to. Exactly.
Like a stiff arm. He did a Heisman pose when he got off the elevator. You know who
who I am, kid?
You know who just checked in? Funky Trey Molina. Hey, we love you. Thanks for the
Thanks,
call.
JP. Appreciate the call.
Trey, that was your buddy JP calling to share some wisdom. Didn't work, but he called to share.
Speaking of sharing wisdom, if you've got an event coming up, Cheryl can share all the wisdom she has when it comes to designing that event.
Absolutely. 920-6803. You call Cheryl. She'll make your next party a big success.
Gray Barn Design. Check them out on Facebook. She's got a great gallery and adding photos to it all the time.
920-6803.
GrayBarnDesign.com.
Did we talk about Veracruz?
No, we did not talk about Veracruz.
Today is not Caldo Wednesday, but today is Tuesday.
It might be called a Wednesday in Newfoundland.
You can get Taco Tuesday to go from Veracruz. You can call this evening. We do it quite often. You say, I want a dozen crispy shells. I want some flour tortillas, and I want 2 pounds of ground meat. They'll give you all the accoutrement to go with it, and you're good to go. Call Veracruz today, 576-6015. After that, you got to put it somewhere. White Trash Services, 550-1826. Call and talk to the boss. BJ, if you call out there, you get a warm body every time you call. It's interesting how you call other places. I had somebody just the other day was talking about the difficulty they had and the haggling and finagling they had to do to get stuff picked up from the company that has the contract in town today. If your lid's not completely closed, they're going to charge you overage. If there's this, if there's that, if it's not a completely unobstructed path, they're not going to ask somebody, hey, can you move that truck? They just leave, put on a surcharge, refuse to take it off, and then come back later. Not that way. That's
just the city, I think.
Not that way at White Trash Services. If you'll dial 550-1826, explain your situation and talk to BJ and her team about what you need done in picking up your garbage in the county, White Trash Services is your
Not just Victoria County, 5 other counties as well.
Yep, do it.
And don't forget, Atzenhofer dealership since 1826. Since 1926, the Atzenhofer dealerships have been here.
Quite simply, Victoria's dealership.
That's exactly it. Chevrolet, Cadillac, Mitsubishi, Mazda, service, parts, body work. They can do it all for you, and they'll do it as they have for almost 94 years.
That's crazy.
It
94 years.
Been selling cars since cars were first invented.
By the way, Tommy Taylor is offering for anybody. I went by just to check on him the other day, and I think it's so cool that we have this interaction with our sponsors. And he said, hey, for this whole month of May, anybody that buys any of the cars at the Atzenhofer dealership, even the pre-owned cars, they're going to give you a $20 gift card to go across the street and pick up dinner for your family at Veracruz.
Nice.
Very nice gift. So do that. And by the way, I'm going to tell you something. I don't know if Tommy would want me to tell you this. Folks, the car dealerships in the world are hurting. They want to sell some cars. If you need a car, now is the right time to buy it. And so much of their unbelievable financing, multiple months with no interest.
Yeah, I think 84 months. That's just for GM.
That's crazy town. Go take advantage of that now.
That's free money there.
That's free money. Go get it at the Atzenhofer dealership.
So a couple of navies around the world making some statements. Venezuela, a couple of weeks back, tried to ram a German cruise liner and sank one of its small vessels.
Beautiful.
In the process. So Iran figured, let's one-up them. And reports out of the Persian Gulf that Iran was test firing some missiles and just happened to drop them on their own naval ships.
You got to love this. Picture this scenario, folks. The Iranian Navy's out at sea. They decide they're going to test a missile. It goes up and comes down on one of their own boats. Now, even though they're not you know, I mean, I guess they're technically not an enemy of the U.S. I'm sorry for the loss of life. It's, I mean, I chuckle at the scenario. I'm sorry for the 19 people that lost their lives, but it is crazy that they sent up a missile and hit their own boat. I mean, these are people that we're worried about, you know, messing with the U.S. I'm telling you that the worst kept secret on the planet is that the United States military couldn't just eliminate them if they really wanted to. Done.
Yeah, we need to get Michael Cloud in, because wasn't there a bill either proposed or did it pass the House that would require notification to Congress before any such action, like with Soleimani and such? And
I don't like it at all.
Here's the problem right now. And it's not just for Trump. Any president going forward would be bound by this, but we know it had bipartisan support. Yeah, and we know it's sort of geared towards Trump. But you know damn well with the leaks in Congress and everywhere else, we're never, if these are the rules we have to play by, we're never getting a Soleimani ever again.
Because you know that guy's going to get a phone call, maybe from a congressman.
Maybe from Pelosi herself.
No exaggeration, folks.
Maybe Pelosi calls Hillary, and Hillary, being the former Secretary of State, calls John Kerry, who's good buddies with Iran. Or maybe they just call Barack Obama and say, hey, Barack, give your buddies in Iran a call. You know, the guys you brokered the nuclear deal with, and let them know we're going after Soleimani.
Well, you need to think about that, because here's the deal. 50 years ago, the U.S. was in the assassination business at that point, and people got assassinated, and it didn't make the news. Now there's real-time footage. It's on CNN while the operation's going on, and that is no way to run. You cannot – there are things that happen on the global landscape where the U.S. has to be a little bit sullied just to stay in the game. There's things that you can't be the only good guy on the block. And, you know, you plant flowers, the deer eat everybody's flowers. You know what I mean? You can't be the only guy that doesn't have problems.
No. And let's be honest. I mean, the U.S. in 1953 did some pretty bad things to get rid of the duly democratically elected leader of Iran, and probably set in motion a lot of the things that are underpinning the hatred for America in Iran today, and installed the Shah, who was a despot and a weak guy.
Well, look how much the U.S. went out of their way to try to kill Fidel Castro. I mean, you know, and I mean, openly it was Kennedy hated him, and vice versa, to the point that many think that Fidel was somehow involved in Kennedy's assassination. But you look at it, and nowadays that would be a bad. You know, it's crazy. This is amazing to me how far the Democratic Party has gone from John Kennedy, who was absolutely pro-life, who was a lifetime member of the NRA.
He wouldn't be welcome in the Democrat Party.
He wouldn't be welcome. John F. Kennedy would not be welcomed in the Democratic Party of today at all.
If he showed up as John F. Kennedy and somebody like John F. Kennedy showed up today and they didn't know who he was, had no history.
He's a Republican.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I think tomorrow is the deadline to get your direct deposit information to the government if you haven't received your check from the vote buying check from the government.
Right.
I hate to call it stimulus package because it ain't. Sorry.
It's just about.
I just can't stand that.
Jeremy,
they're giving you your own money.
Jeremy Pena says he's on his way to Del Rio. Jeremy, be safe this week. He says he's traveling all over the state. That's a hardworking man right there.
Yeah, he's floating the rivers everywhere.
Yeah. Do Del Rio today, the Guadalupe tomorrow, and on to the Frio.
Yeah. And then there's an interesting bill that the House is planning to introduce today that would create a national public health corps where they would mobilize citizens, get them to work, which I don't understand. We can't get the economy going, but we can now hire people to do a job that would employ hundreds of thousands to help conduct the testing that we need to roll out for COVID.
I don't want to be the guy's first test. Have you seen that swab going all the way through your nasal passage? Yeah. I don't want that.
Yeah. I'm a skeptic on the tests. it's a snapshot in time that tells you either have it or you don't. Doesn't mean you haven't had it. Doesn't mean you're not going to get it.
That's right. They're saying now that you can get a relapse if you've had it. And they're also saying, and this came out of the White House, they want every nursing home employee tested in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a lot of tests.
Yeah. Interesting too that remember when this all started and the president was lambasted by the media for not testing everybody or when they were testing. Why are you testing everybody in the White House?
And what are they saying now?
Well, now that they
Why
have
aren't you
somebody,
testing
yeah,
everybody
that's
in the White
exactly
House?
it, because one person got it.
I love it when
Pence
the lady's standing up yesterday. She's holding her mask on her face, and Trump's just standing there without a mask.
yeah,
Dude,
outside. They weren't wearing masks inside the press room. So they take the press briefing outside, and then everybody has a mask on outside, more than 6 feet between them. I mean,
it's
the
crazy.
optics of this is just
It's just
bass
politics.
backwards.
Politics. is all
You're
it is.
inside a closed room with the press briefings, and nobody's wearing a mask.
Then you're outside.
Then you're
the wind's
outside, and
blowing.
everybody's in, and it's windy, and then everybody's
Yeah.
wearing it. That makes no sense.
Hey, we're going to have to get out of here, but one last reminder, don't forget to reach out to Went Generators. Now you've got a complete circuit of off-grid independence. You can put up solar panels that will feed a battery rack, all from Generac, a trusted American-made brand. And then if that ever fails, you got your backup generator. The storm season is right around the corner. Make hay while the sun shines with the solar panels. And then you've got the backup in the event that someday we have a storm and we don't have power. Reach out to Went Generators, Went Services right here in Victoria, and let them give you a quote. All right, we're going to get out of here today. I hope you guys have a safe day. Be well. Watch the roads.